we asked one of Carolina People's most beloved guests to come out of retirement. She agreed. Find out what she's been up to. Coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're in the conference room at the Myrtle Beach Herald, 4806 Northgate Boulevard in Myrtle Beach, behind Myrtle Beach Lighting and Barnhill Realty off of Highway 17 Bypass South. We're focused on what a difference a year makes. And we're visiting with Joe Fisher of Sumter. Good morning, Joe.
From our new home in Sumter, South Carolina.
New home in Sumter, South Carolina.
Absolutely.
Kind of between the PD and the Midlands, right there in the middle.
Close to Lake City and 35 miles from Columbia.
Oh, wow, Joe.
We're enjoying the new chapters in our book of life.
Kind of a semi-retirement.
Yeah,
can you call it that? I know you're working so hard with your grandchildren and other things.
We've been very involved, but as I've mentioned to many earlier, no more 70-hour work weeks. Right. And we're just busy doing some things that we've wanted to do for a long time, but simply didn't have time.
Well, we miss you at the beach, Joe. There are a ton of folks who miss seeing you all the time. There's a lot of folks, I don't want to get you emotional about that, but we miss you here, but you love it over there in Sumter.
We are really enjoying the Sumter lifestyle. Of course, our daughter lives there with her husband and 2 children, and they have a military base there, and so my husband has gotten involved in some activities out at Shaw. And there are things to do for us. We bought a home there, and it's a fixer-upper, and so we've been busy doing that, and we've done some traveling.
Yes.
And we're just taking life one day at a time.
And that's great. Well, we want to hear about that a little more. Of course, you and I will be rushing out of here to head over to the Crown Reef Conference Center, the Crown Reef Resorts Conference Center. Lance Thompson was with us yesterday, the chair of the Community Servant Award, the Community Service Celebration, which is this morning over there. And folks can still show up if they want to leave this interview and watch it later on CarolinaPeople.com or TiVo it or whatever folks do to record it. They can head on over to the Crown Reef now, and even they've got 2 or 3 extra tables, they said, for folks who just show up without tickets. So they need to get on over there. This is a tremendous event, one that kicked off actually right not long after you joined the March of Dimes.
The first event, at that time it was called a Real Estate Award for the March of Dimes, was held in 2002.
Okay.
And so it's my understanding that this year they're honoring Woody Crosby, who is an absolutely wonderful man and someone I've known for 10 years.
Is that right?
That's right, because when we moved from Niagara Falls, New York to Myrtle Beach in 1998, Mr. Crosby hired me to be Director of Sales and Marketing for the Crown Reef.
Is that right? And, so you know that facility well.
I know it very, very well. I know the back corridors. I know where all the grains of sand are and that sort of thing. But I had the pleasure of getting to know him. In fact, I may be one of the few people that was hired for a position sight unseen, and Mr. Crosby and I did all the negotiating over the phone and over the internet, and he hired me sight unseen.
Wow.
And brought Sterling and I down to Myrtle Beach, and I worked for them from 1998 to 2001.
That's tremendous, Joe. I don't think I ever put 2 and 2 together about, I had a big event there in February of 2000.
You did? I was there.
And I think we did a lot of dealings with, there was a guy named Todd and another guy who's kind of got a round face who was on the food
Larry,
side.
I think.
Larry, who was wonderful. And so you were working with them.
Yes.
That's tremendous. Well, that was a magnificent event there, February of 2000. And you had a nice little facility across the street from the conference center where we had our Friday night event between Damon's and the hotel.
The Beach Club.
The Beach Club, which is very nice. That's a beautiful facility. And the Crown Reef has really stepped out to help this community servant to form a real estate breakfast year after year, well before Woody Crosby was ever recognized as the community servant. Woody and the staff there have really been wrapping around to help out the March of Dimes.
That's been interesting to have worked for them and then go to work for the March of Dimes, start this new breakfast and have the committee say, well, Joe, since you know Mr. Crosby, would you mind going and asking him if they would host the event, provide the facility, provide all the staff, provide all the people to cook the food, because that's all donated, and it all be donated. And so I went, well, okay. So I went and asked and talked to Mr. Crosby, and he said yes. And it's been held there every year except for 1 year, and when the recipient wanted it to be at the convention center.
That's right.
But what a nice individual and a nice facility to step up year after year and do that, so that all the money that's raised at the breakfast goes to the mission of the March of Dimes.
Very definitely. And U.S. Food Service, I believe, or another vendor have been very supportive in helping provide and donate all the food for the breakfast. And it has been a tremendous event when we think about, of course, seeing the ambassador babies out there and the ambassador families. I remember the first year I went, which was the year that Luke and Riley were co-ambassador babies. We got a great picture of them in my office here. A nice shot that you provided of the two of them and two other ambassador babies in clown outfits. A wonderful shot. And we think about the significance of the ambassador families. It ties in truly to just children in general. And
Absolutely.
Of course, your role now and a different role with children who are not ambassador babies but are really need attention, need the support of not only their parents but grandparents.
Absolutely. When I think back to the years that I was with the March of Dimes, I think I mentioned to you that the parents and the children that served as ambassadors have really become heroes to me, because, you know, to see the roller coaster ride that they go through, and the good days, and then the days when we would cry because we didn't think the baby would live another day. That's probably the most precious memory I have in connection with the 7 years I spent with the March of Dimes.
Wow, Joe, that's tremendous. Well, of course, a real thrill. A lot of the great connections that you've made there in just a short time in Sumter, and maintained some of your great friends and family back in this area, but I suspect in probably all the areas you've been. Niagara Falls,
wonderful.
You probably still have some deep roots there.
We do.
And
we lived, people have often said to us, is your husband military? And I'd say, no, we're gypsies. We just kept moving from one place to another, but we left behind many friends, and so we have friends from a lot of different communities.
Oh, I bet, Joe. Where did you actually grow up, Joe? Did you, you mentioned that not a military connection there, you all haven't moved around some, but where did you grow up?
Texas.
Is that right?
San Antonio, Texas for me, and my husband is from a little community out in West Texas called Pecos. I used to tell people that's where the devil had his headquarters. But we married in Pecos and then moved to San Antonio, and from San Antonio we moved to Dallas. And so we certainly have a lot of Texas still in us. And then from there we moved to Kansas City, Missouri, and then from there we moved to Indianapolis, Indiana. And from there, I came and headed up the Convention and Visitors Bureau in Myrtle Beach.
Is that right?
That's right.
Oh, boy. What years was that?
I was here in 1987, and we moved to Savannah 4 days ahead of Hurricane Hugo.
In 89.
In 89, and we stayed in Savannah. I was a recruiter for Savannah Armstrong State College, which is now a university.
Right.
And then we probably took the biggest step of our lives in moving, and I became president of the Niagara Falls Convention and Visitors Bureau in Niagara Falls, New York.
Son of a gun.
And Christy was in college at the University of South Carolina, and we took our son Garrett up there. And we were there for 7 years. And one of the great attractions, one here is a beach and an ocean, and up there it's the great Niagara Falls.
Oh, yes, yes. And they really are. I don't know if I've ever been up there. I don't know how many viewers have been. What is the... Is it just the overpowering aspect of...
It's the absolute power of the sound as you get closer to them and you hear the sound. Of course, to see it is really rather magnificent as well. And in the position that I had of trying to bring conventions and international tourists and meeting planners, we did a lot of events at the falls, from picnics to candlelight dinners. And
really?
With the falls as the backdrop, all lit up, and so, and I got to travel all around the world promoting the community, and so it was an outstanding 7 years. But then the daughter had her first child, and the son went in the Army, and went to Fort Bragg, and so Sterling and I said, we don't need to shovel snow anymore. We need to get closer, and so Woody Crosby stepped in, and we decided Myrtle Beach would be a good place, Greg, close enough to our children, but far enough away not to meddle in their lives.
Oh, yeah. You literally, at that point, were sandwiched right virtually in between them. Fort Bragg, Fayetteville, and Sumter there. She had already moved to Sumter, or she was in Columbia?
She had already moved to Sumter. She and her husband, they're both attorneys, and a couple of years after they married, Connor came along, our soon-to-be 11-year-old grandson.
Yes.
So here we were in Myrtle Beach, and I stepped out of the public sector and into the private sector, and would go home days scratching my head like, wow, this is different, selling a 500-room hotel and a conference center, but I can do it because it's a great facility.
Oh, it is.
It was new then, brand new then.
Yes,
so it's great.
Yes, back 10 years ago.
Yeah, right.
10 years ago, it was right.
And they added the third tower while I was working for them, so got to see a hotel tower be built. It was really a great, great experience.
I bet. Jordan Properties and some of their magnificent
And Mr.
properties.
Jordan was like looking at the Colonel from Kentucky
That's
Fried Chicken.
That's right, exactly, yes. Was he on the East Coast much, or was he in Vegas
he would
a lot?
come. We didn't really know
where he was, yeah.
Well, he was in Vegas a great deal, but they didn't let us know ahead of time that he was coming in to the Crown Reef, and then we would be told he was on property. And so, but he wore kimonos, and yeah, he did, and he was really quite a gentleman, and I always enjoyed it when I had a chance to be in his presence.
Yes, yes, I'm sure. That's wonderful. You know, as you think about, for you, the significance here and the thrill of seeing your children both grow up and now grandchildren coming on the scene. And Garrett has how many?
Garrett has two.
So each of your children have two.
A boy and a girl each. So Garrett's in Germany, and
he is now.
He is now. He's been there 2.5 years in Germany, and just made staff sergeant 6 months ago.
Congratulations.
And he has another 6 months to go in Germany, and they'll be back stateside in February of 2009.
Oh, good. So it's in the next 6 months.
Absolutely.
How exciting.
Yes, it is very exciting.
Do you know where they will be when they return to the States?
Well, he's getting ready to re-enlist, and he's requesting to either be in North Carolina, South Carolina, or Georgia.
Good.
To be closer to family.
Right.
But that's yet to be determined.
Right.
He should know by the end of October. They'll know where they're going to be in the States.
Oh, good. So in the next couple months, you'll have some idea.
Yes.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And the Army, of course, has big facilities all over the country, but they've got some great ones in the Carolinas and in Georgia.
Yes,
so
they do.
You should have a good shot at that.
Well, he'll come back as a nurse.
Right.
Although he has reactivated his jump status, so if he had to go to a war zone and had to go in, he would jump in as a nurse. So that's, he didn't ask us about voting on the reactivating the jump status, but that's okay. I just tell him, whenever you jump, just call when you're on the ground.
That's right. That's right.
Not
what
when
would
you're
your
in the
answer
air.
have been? I mean, clearly you knew about it when he was training to become a jumper.
And then when he re-enlisted, he became a medic, and he was an airborne medic. And then when he re-enlisted again, he went to become an LPN, and then he deactivated his jump status.